I want to talk about our signing, though. We did spend money. We did make win moves now. You talked about him a little earlier, Brooks. You've probably watched and scouted this guy for a little bit longer than we have. I can't lie and tell you that I watched a ton of New York City games this year and tell you that I know everything about him. But you might be able to tell our listeners and Galaxy fans a little more about this player in particular. You said he's able to be a little flexible, play in two roles. Do you kind of want to elaborate on what Haak brings to the Galaxy?
I like his physicality standpoint. I think it's a different type of player that like you guys just doesn't like. I just call him like kind of like a fuck you player, where it's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like that's NYCFC to a T. You know, like Sands was that way. Jamie Sands and Joe Scally and everything. You know what I mean? Like all those guys are just they grow up, they play physical soccer. You're playing against Red Bull, who don't play a very beautiful style sometimes, and those are rivalry games you play in as a youth player. And then obviously you're from New York. No one likes you. Everyone wants to beat you. I think it's a good move. You just need a kind of someone that had a little more grit, that was just going to step up. And I mean, obviously the South American players get pretty gritty. That's just how they grow up and the environment they play in as they move up the pro level. But I think he's going to add something that's more of a destroyer six, but can play a little bit or can fill in as a center back if needed at times. It's crazy. NYCFC just didn't want him or let him go. Like that was the crazy part. Because I do think at some point Haak does want to go overseas if he can make it. So,
yeah, that contract that he signed, Andrew, do you want to elaborate on the details of it a little more? Because I think you know him better than I do.
To be honest, I haven't looked at it since really the news happened, but I believe it's a 1+1 option. That salary figure escapes me, but just that alone, at his age as a free agent, that's a super favorable contract for the Galaxy, while at the same time opening up that flexibility a bit for Justin Haak. At the end of the day, he doesn't have the final say. It is a club option. But for the Galaxy, you could think of it as 2 years of solid player who's going to be starting to stepping into his better form in his career. 2 years, he's going to be 26, really kind of a solid player, still with probably some great value in case we do decide to make a transfer. It's, I think, a classic Will Kuntz money move. Great ROI, I feel like, is in the future there. That's just a deal-wise, though, but as an actual signing as a footballer as well, like Brooks mentioned, it's really, really interesting. It opens up a ton of options of where on the pitch he could actually play. I love the idea of him as kind of the destroyer six to alleviate some of the pressure that's been on Edwin Cerrillo, especially last year, where he kind of had to learn on the spot that destroyer role. Didn't necessarily succeed, which looked a little bit funky after Cerrillo played a really solid kind of supporter role in that midfield along Gaston Brugman, along Mark Delgado, along Ricky Puig. He's a great cog, but to put so much of the onus of that midfield onto him, we saw it last year. It's just not as effective, where if you get him that kind of support, that kind of player that Haak can be, I think it'll open up a layer of Edwin Cerrillo that we didn't necessarily see last year. And I think the more of that kind of stuff, just players making their teammates better, is what's going to build a successful winning roster when you don't have someone like Ricky Puig who's going to score 3 goals a game for you. So those are the kinds of signings that are really exciting. And again, from a money perspective, it's great. From a actual what we need on the pitch perspective, fantastic as well. We've talked a lot about it. I wrote an article about it, just exploring the defensive options as well that a player like Haak opens up. We've talked about that 3 at the back, which Vanney, had so much success with in Toronto, that his, treble winning historic season relied on that 3 back. And that's really what ended up earning him the job at the LA Galaxy, what really got him that recognition. So if he could return to his most successful play style, it's an option he has now. And, he has a really solid 4-4-3 that he's built over the past couple of years with the Galaxy. If he can get them to learn a really strong 3 back, it's Vanney getting to, play with his 2 favorite toys every single game and just deciding which one's better for this opponent. So lots of really interesting things that it opens up. There's just not much not to love about this Haak move.
Agreed. Mila, I have 2 things for you. 1, he wore the number 80, which means that he's no nonsense. To wear the number 80 as a center back is pretty fucking crazy. Yeah. 2, because you're a correspondent Manchester City fan, this is a player that knows that system, the 3-2-5, right? The modernized Pep system. That's what Citigroup play. They all do the same thing. You know it better than most people in terms of what the John Stones role is. Can you kind of elaborate on what that is? Because that's what he's going to play this season, most likely.
I worry about that because that's what I've been hearing, but also from what I've looked into, I'm also like you, Dylan. I haven't watched many NYCFC games, so this is all just what I've seen online. But I worry for what he has to do in that role. It takes a lot of talent on the ball to do that, and if we're talking about him as a destroyer six, that's nowhere near a John Stones role. But if he's stepping out from the defense and helping Surreal kind of just secure the build-up, then I think there's some potential there. But to ask him to be a Rolls Royce when I haven't really seen it is a little crazy.
And I don't blame you for that. I'm going to save all of my thoughts on Haak until I do my video breaking down how I think we're going to actually end up playing, which is in that 3-2-5, because I've got so many ideas when it comes to how it can happen. And I just want to play Greg Vanney for like 15 minutes on a standalone video. But I'm very excited about this signing. To your point, Mila, like I don't know anything about him, so I got to watch a bunch of film to really figure it out.
Exactly. But we have some research to do.
Yeah, his advanced stats in terms of passes and assists, like he had 4 assists as a center back last season. That's hard to come by in any league, let alone this league where ball playing and progression isn't like your number one top of mind thing for a team like the Galaxy that we talked about it so much, where it was like possession without purpose. This is a player that can give you possession with purpose. Is my very, very 1,000 feet away understanding of what
understanding.
Yeah.
No, I know. I think he can definitely do that from the center back. But I think the worry from what I've seen is if he's to step up into midfield and have to do a little bit more responsibility in that central area is where it could get scary. But if he's playing the balls out the back to our high-flying wingers, hopefully they get back to form this year, then I totally think that he can match that 4 assists. Yeah, I got to look into it more, but it should be exciting. I've heard a lot about his physical prowess and just what he's able to do in that part of the game. So I think that's what I'm most excited about. We've had Garces who has that perfectly. It just doesn't have the head on top of him. And then Yoshida, who just doesn't have the legs to back it up. So my hope is that he's just right in the middle of both of them. And then we get a good center back, but also a good backup 6, or just someone to fill in next to Surreal in times that we might need it.
Yeah. My point I was going to bring up, just looking at the roster, I mean, you got Jorgensen at 35, Yamane at 32, Yoshida at 37. I mean, you need another younger athletic guy that can play in the back line with Haak, that they trust, right? So maybe that's the move. You save the international spot, you use it in the summertime. But for me, like they just need a younger guy if they're going to play a 3-back and Hack's going to be in there. It's kind of like the U.S. men's national team. You can have, everyone complains about Tim Ream, and listen, Tim Ream can still play a ball and is still a leader, and so is Yoshida. But you need another young guy back there that covers ground, that can pick up stuff for people, especially if Vanney's going to shoot the wing backs if he's going to play a 3-back system. So,
yeah, it's the one position group that I have been super angry about throughout the course of Vanney's tenure, because it's always been garbage. And then Yoshida came in and he raised the floor and he helped out Neil and Garces when we won the title. And then we got rid of Neil, which was our young project guy. Yep. But then this summer it was like, all right, we're fixing this fucking giant mistake that has been this whole issue. And now you've got Glesnes, Haak, Yoshida, Rindov, and Garces to play around with in terms of formations and doing a bunch of stuff. I think Jorgensen, and we're all very.
I forgot about that.
He's gone. So.
Oh, is he?
I think they're finalizing a contract buyout. I don't want to risk saying it too soon and like get very upset when he's back in my team's colors, but I think he's gone.
I don't think there's
Fair enough.
There's no need to keep him.
No.
Forgot Phil, you gave him away. I totally forgot about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wrong side of 30. Got to get rid. That's how it always works with them. They're like the Leonardo DiCaprio of the MLS. They just fucking anything that's that old just got to go. It doesn't matter how pretty it is.